Hey guys, welcome back and thank you for joining me. In this next series of videos, I'm going to be taking you along with me through the process of my application, testing, and acquisition of my California State Contractor's License. Now, perhaps for many of you out there, a contractor's license is not necessary in order to conduct the type of business that you want to do, but nonetheless, I will be filling out forms and dealing with a state agency, especially with the state of California, which I'm sure is a process that might be relative to your experience of starting and operating your own business, because you're going to be dealing with some local municipalities, some authorities, whether that be state, county, or city, in conducting your business. And perhaps to that end, a part of this process might be somewhat educational and helpful to you to see how it is that I was successfully able to conduct this. And by all means, if you are someone who intends to be involved in the construction trade, providing any kind of service for a transaction equitable value in excess of $500, you are required by law to have a contractor's license before you can conduct that business. And it's largely misunderstood how to go about obtaining your contractor's license and the different things that are necessary and required in order to actually legally obtain that. So I do hope that by going through this with you, that you can learn a lot of those things in advance, save yourself a lot of time and money by doing it properly in the first time, so that you can successfully obtain your contractor's license and continue on with starting and growing your business. So thank you for joining me. I hope you stick around, and I hope that you do enjoy this. I'm going to start right off with researching some of the forms for the application that's necessary within the state of California and how to fill those out and submit those to start this process. So as stated, locating, filling out, and submitting the application form is going to be the first step. It's going to be the initiation of the process of going about obtaining a contractor's license. Conveniently, in most, if not all cases, the forms to start that can be found online. So, and that's where I'd recommend that you start, is you look for the Contractor State Licensing Board, the CSLB, for the state in which your business resides or in which you're going to be conducting business. So in my case, that would be the state of California. And by doing a simple Google search, you can see that their website pulls up, and also some frequently used links on their website, including the forms and applications page, show up right here. And by clicking on that, it's going to take you to the section of their website. At least this one is the California Contractor State Licensing Board website. And here they provide all of the different forms and applications in order to conduct any type of necessary business or make any type of adjustments with them. And they're all titled and descripted within this. And at least for the purpose of this video and the very purpose of this whole channel that I've put on here, I'm going to limit our review and discussion and information of all of these different forms and applications to those which would apply to somebody who's starting a new business. And so starting right here at the top, you can see that the first application form they provide is called the Application for Original Contractor's License. Now, as you may be able to decipher just from the title of this document, this is most likely what's going to be used by any new business, in the sense that this is one that you would utilize to actually acquire a new contractor's license. So it wouldn't be one that's already in effect, a license that's been issued with any type of adjustment to it. Now there would potentially be, and we're going to review that, a different application form you'd use if you have ever been a qualifier or a licensed contractor before. But if you had never not, if this is your first time in introduction to this process in this department, this is the form that you're going to be using. Now, at least in California, and I would imagine this is probably true of most, if not all other states as well, there's 3 different ways that you can obtain any one of these applications and forms to process them and submit them. The first one here, the option that's provided, is called Easy Fill. If I select this, it's going to open up this document on a new web page, an entirely different one. And within that, it's going to have some different text boxes where I can enter the information that they're requesting within that, and I can then print that off. And as is true of any different way that I source this, I can either mail this to the state licensing board, or I can go and hand it in person with my application fee. Second way that I can source this document is via PDF, and which will give me the option to download it directly to my computer, and then I can, on my own free time, review, research, and fill out that information. Again, I can print it off and either mail it in with my application fee or hand it in person. And third is the order option, in which they will actually send a hard copy of this document to the address that I provide for them that I want it to be received by. So a few things to know at least about this particular application form is that, again, if you have an existing license and let's say you're just wanting to make minor adjustments to it, like replace a qualifying individual, which is processed here, but that would be replacing an individual, a qualifier on an existing license. You are not applying for a new original contractor's license. You would use a different form, not this one. Or if you're adding or changing classifications on your license, again, it wouldn't be the change that would necessitate the use of this form right here. A separate one's been provided for that. However, if you are actually applying for an original contractor's license, if this is your first go around, or even if you're adding a new classification to your existing license, you're going to have to provide the certification of your work experience. In order to become a licensed contractor for any particular trade under any facet of what's recognized as a licensable trade with the state licensing board, you're going to have to substantiate to them that you have the experience to be qualified and projected as a professional in that trade. And they're going to be looking for journey level experience in terms of actually producing or installing, working with said products and types, any kind of management aspect of projects and personnel within that trade, estimating and other administrative responsibilities, project management would all be relative to qualifying your work experience as a professional in that trade. So there's a few different things other than even just direct work experience working for, let's say, an employer who works in that industry that can qualify your work experience. They do count collegiate education towards that. So if you do have a degree, whether that be 2 or 4 year degree in, let's say, construction management, that can count towards some of your 4-year requirement of work experience. And I should have stated that earlier. They're looking for 4 consecutive years of journey level work experience to qualify you as a professional to even be capable of submitting an application for any one of these trades to become certified in, licensed in. Apologize. Some other things that they accept is union training. So if you've been through an apprenticeship program through a trade union, they will count that as work experience towards obtaining your journey level experience in this, that, and the other thing. But nonetheless, you can even do that on personal home projects. If you have successfully completed an addition to your home, a remodel, or even the entire construction of your own home, and you did that yourself, you can actually take that work experience and provide that as your qualifying work experience at a journey level ability towards your application. But you do need 4 years of that, and you're going to need to prove it. The easiest way is to have, if you've worked in this industry in the past, have somebody of authority from your previous employer actually sign your work certification form that you've provided services, you've worked in that capacity for that number of time, be that an owner, a manager, a supervisor, a foreman, anything to that effect. They're certifying your work experience is the easiest way to substantiate that to the state licensing board. And going down here, there's a few different ones. We've talked about the construction project experience. If yours was done doing construction for yourself, they're going to ask a few more questions of you than just if your employer is certifying your work experience and abilities. But moving down here, I do want to stop at section 4, which is the additional personnel form. And I do want to stop here because a lot of people have a misconception as to what it is that it means to add personnel to your license. So all licenses, all contractors' licenses have to be issued under the name of a business. They are not issued to individuals. So that's first and foremost, that's one thing that you need to know. You do need to have a fictitious business name because the state will only issue your license to the name of that business, not you the person, although it is acceptable that it be a sole proprietorship. That's perfectly okay. However, an individual, not a business, has to be the qualifier in any one of those particular areas. So you might be asking yourself, what does that mean? I am personally and currently an RME on the contractor's license for my current employer. So the contractor's license is issued to the name of my employer, the name of that company. However, I personally have taken the test and I am the responsible managing employee, an RME. I am personally qualifying my employer to work under the C23 classification, which is ornamental steel fabrication. We have another RMO, responsible managing owner. So one of the owners of the company is the qualifying individual for the C51, which is structural steel in the state of California. So hence we have both of those classifications. We can do work in both of those types and industries under our contractor's license. So what's the purpose of adding personnel? If there is ever any kind of exchange of ownership or responsibility, even if you're just preparing for not just a change of ownership, but let's say your owners are, you're trying to prepare in the catastrophic event that one of the qualifiers of your license maybe gets injured or killed or something to that effect, that you cannot lose, or you want to at least streamline the process of replacing the qualifier on your license. Well, adding personnel to your license is one of the ways that you can do that. So you may have your managers listed as additional personnel on your contractor's license, so that if they're signing forms on behalf, if they're if they're accepting responsibility on behalf of your company, they will, if the receiving party of that actually decides to look them up, they will show up as an additional personnel, which would be a responsible individual, though not the qualifier, on your contractor's license, which more or less substantiates their association with your business and that license. However, they are not the qualifier on your license. If the qualifier on your license for any one of your particular classifications gets injured, is no longer with the business, anything of that nature, you have to replace them in order to continue to do business under that work classification. Enlisting personnel to that is not a means of doing that. A lot of people have that confused. You're basically just determining association of an individual with that license. But I'm going to digress and move on here with that. So this is the form that I'm personally going to be using, because as I've already stated, I am a qualifier on an existing license for a different company. That means that I am going to be filling out the application for original contractor's license for my new company, SBC Group, that we're going over, but it's the 7065, which is the examination waiver, which means I am applying for an original contractor's license, but I am requesting that they waive the requirement for me to take the business section of the test to become a licensed contractor. There are 2 sections to every test. You will have to pass the business section of that, which demonstrates that you are knowledgeable and capable of responsibly and legally managing the activities of your business. You understand tax implications and financial statements and things of that nature. And then second to that, you're going to have to test and qualify that you are knowledgeable and capable to be considered a licensed professional in the trade that you're wanting to be a qualifier in. Since I've already a qualifier on our license, I already had to take the business section. That's not going to change based off the trade that I'm going after. However, I am seeking to obtain an original contractor's license. I have successfully already passed the business and professions code test. I'm just looking to have different trade classifications qualified on my license. So we're going to be able to go over this and some of those things as well. You're going to see this is the one that's going to pertain to me. It's probably the one that I will go over both for your sake and benefit, because you more than likely won't be falling under the category of having already done half of this process, and I will be able to educate you on that as well. So now following this, as I stated before about the Section 4 additional personnel, if you need to replace a qualifying individual, which again is the person, not the company, that qualifies your company to do work under that, there's an application for doing so right here. Whether they leave or they're deceased or whatever, you need to disassociate the qualifying individual that's no longer there from the license and replace them with somebody who's capable and qualified of doing so. Yes, they will have to take the test in order to accomplish that. The rest of this really is fairly non-applicable to anybody who's starting a new business. Everything else on this, more than likely, you've already been in business. Perhaps you just need to make some adjustment to your license or its status or your qualifications or things of that nature, and you can find and seek out what it is you need from this. The exception to that is this one up here, which is the application. You don't need an asbestos certification, but it just would remind me of something that I do want to state to you. Regardless of the type of work that you do, whatever classification it is that you're seeking to get licensed in, you will have to take an open book test on how to properly handle and dispose of asbestos materials. It's not that hard, believe you me. There are more stringent requirements for other classifications that have more direct and relative contact and experience with having to handle asbestos containing products, but everybody, regardless of classification, is going to have to take that open book test. And don't fret about it. Again, it's open book. It's very simple. And you will have to submit that. That's one of the processes that you're going to have to cover with that. So now this is a brief introduction, hopefully, some of the things that you're going to need perhaps to start this process and where that you can source them. Now that we've covered that base, in my next video, I'm actually going to be going through filling out accurately, so providing the information that's necessary the first time to the application in order to obtain a contractor's license. And I'll, of course, bring to you my entire process and experience of submitting that, paying those fees. There's a limited amount of what I can actually journal about the experience of taking the test and the acquisition of that. There's legal ramifications of giving some of those things away, so I can't do so. But I do next want to inform you how to accurately provide the information requested on their application, because any error on that is going to be a rejection of your application, and you will have to make those corrections and repay your application fee, and I want to avoid that at all possible costs. So again, thank you so very much for joining me today. I hope that you do find some kind of pertinent, relative, and useful bit of information to this entire application process. Stick with me for the next video, where I'm going to continue this particular part of our journey. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, I would encourage that you would please add them to the posting of this video. Do subscribe to this channel. There's so much more content that we have and will be going over to starting your own business that I hope that you do enjoy. And thank you again for joining me this day. I hope that you liked it, and I intend to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.